It's late winter in northeast Ohio. The snow that continues to coat the trees will soon give way to the rain in the imminent spring thaw. As the days grow longer and the trees begin to waken from the dormancy, their life-giving water begins to flow.
Each type of tree creates a different variety of liquid to suffice its needs. On this 140-year-old farm, the trees that are the most interest at this time of year are the maples. Carrying on a tradition that dates back to the Native Americans in this region, those residing on this farm spend their early spring producing one of the world's most natural sweeteners, maple syrup. The process begins with tapping the trees.
Like all aspects of farming, maple syrup is completely dependent upon the weather. As soon as the temperature starts climbing above freezing during the days, the sap will begin to run. In maple trees, this process is unique.
All trees contain ray cells, which are the wood fiber cells that store the tree's starches or sugars that allow the tree to grow and produce leaves. These ray cells surround the xylem or conduits in the tree's trunk. In most trees, these ray cells are filled with water, but in maple trees, these ray cells are filled with gas. When freezing temperatures occur, most trees are forced to push sap out due to the expansion of the water in these cells. However, maple trees do the exact opposite. As the maple's gas-filled ray cells freeze, they actually condense and form a sugar frost along the edges. This negative pressure of condensing cells within the tree pulls more sap up into the trees from the roots. Then, when the temperature rises and the tree thaws, these ray cells with additional sugars now attached to them expand, causing a positive pressure in the tree. This positive pressure pushes the sap around the tree and out any cracks or weak points, including the tap holes.
By closely studying the forecast, all maple farmers use their best judgment based on years of experience to decide when to tap. In northeast Ohio, this season typically begins in January or early February. However, preparation for it begins long before that.
In order to be ready for the upcoming season, many hours are spent in preparation doing the following tasks: cutting all of the wood required to boil the sap.
So this is going to be firewood?
Yes. You know how we have to have a big fire when we make syrup?
Purchasing the retail syrup bottles, sanitizing canning jars and lids,
Jars you have to do straight.
Yep, I've run out of space over there, so I can't even get free to take them over.
cleaning and repairing buckets,
Go get another bucket. Well, you can put snow in it? Okay, that's a good idea.
That'll clean it up.
making and washing new syrup strainers, making sure farm equipment and tanks are in tip-top shape, and gathering all of the supplies for long evenings in the sugar house. Thankfully, there are many family members on this farm to help with all of this work.
Closer to the actual start of the syrup season, the sugar house that sits along a wooded creek near the middle of the farm must be opened back up. Pans need cleaned and sanitized, steam curtains need hung, pan and hearth need leveled, and the pans need to be set in place. Smokestacks need placed. and the interior of the sugar house requires a good scrubbing.
Whoever bought that unit is smart.
After carefully monitoring weather changes and conferring with each other, the eldest generation living on the farm makes the decision when tapping will begin. With so many hands available, this process can be done in one day, but will sometimes stretch over a weekend depending on the number of trees tapped each year. We put out between 600 to 1,200 taps throughout the 90 acres of woods on the back half of the farm and along the roadside at the front of the farm.
This process involves a large creek. We need some strong people to run the gas-powered tappers or large wood drills because they weigh around 20 pounds. That gets very heavy very quickly. Closely following the tappers are experienced individuals who first remove any bark around the tapped hole that may be in the way of the bucket hanging properly. Then they tap the spile into the drilled hole. Spile tapping is a learned art. If you tap a spile in too far, it will split the tree. If you don't tap it in snugly enough, the spile can completely fall out under the weight of a full bucket, or become loose during the season and fall out when a future sap gatherer is trying to gather the sap, resulting in a sap gatherer with an extremely wet pant leg.
A crew of people go behind this team, making frequent trips back and forth to the trailer, carrying heavy loads of metal buckets and lids that will hang on all the spiles that are now secure in the maple trees. Trying to keep up on this is a challenge, and buckets sticking together delay this process greatly. Finding a lid that will properly fit each bucket can also be a struggle. The lids are necessary to prevent rain, snow, and other debris from falling into the sap.
All of the trees run at varying speeds. Those who have been making syrup in this woods for decades know which trees yield the most sap and which yield the least. While tapping, they make sure the younger generation carrying the buckets and lids know which trees will need the largest buckets.
Once the buckets are hung, our family waits for the perfect freeze and thaw to get the sap flowing.
We can't always wait until the buckets are full to gather the sap, as freezing temperatures can cause the sap to burst the fuller buckets. When to gather tends to be a group discussion and decision. While the timing is based on weather, it also requires the availability of the strong labor force who are working full-time jobs outside of the farm.
Not only does the sap need to be gathered, it also needs to be boiled, both of which are time-consuming. During syrup season, those who are gathering and boiling often come home straight from work, change clothes, and remain back in the woods and sugar house until 11 p.m. or even later, only to wake up and repeat that schedule for several days in a row.
Like all of farming, making syrup requires strength and endurance. It involves walking many miles through snow and mud, carrying 5-gallon buckets in each hand that weigh up to 42 pounds apiece when full of sap.
It takes 40 to 50 gallons of sap to make 1 gallon of syrup. In a good year, our farm produces around 120 gallons of syrup. That's 6,000 gallons of sap. As we gather this sap, we pour it into a storage tank attached to the tractor. At this point, the sap goes through its first filtration to remove any large debris that made it past the lids and into the sap.
This process involves the whole family, and accommodations are made for those who are too young to carry the 5-gallon buckets. They get some that are more their size.
That precariously stuck. It was hilarious. But then you should have seen us handling it, you know?
On our farm, our ancestors used to gather sap with horses and a sleigh, and now we do it all with tractors.
Once transported back to the sugar house, the sap gets dumped into a large holding tank and strained for a second time to remove smaller debris.
I don't hear anything, Brody.
It stopped. I can hear it make a click.
From the holding tank, it is run through a reverse osmosis or RO machine. RO uses high pressures to force pure water through a semi-permeable membrane, leaving denser sap with a much higher sugar content behind. RO can remove up to 75% of the water and sap and cut boiling time down by well over half.
Through the membrane into the inside of the tube.
Oh, okay.
And then it gets pumped out.
Okay, that's how it separates it. All right.
And then while it's doing that, it's under high pressure, but it's also circulating the entire time it's under high pressure. So the circulation runs back into the tank there. So
Okay.
that carries extra sugar with it because the sugar can't get through the membrane.
Okay. Okay.
From the storage tank outside, the sap runs through an underground pipe into the sugar house pans. The rate of this flow is controlled by an adjustable float.
What are you doing, Grandma?
What?
So what are you doing?
No, not yet. I'm asking her if she's sending all of these pictures to you, Jenny. Wish you were here, but
It's
don't
going
run
back
out of
up.
syrup without letting us know. We'll send you some. And it is muddy.
As it comes into the pans, it slowly moves through the flue pan, where it quickly heats, then travels to the front pan, where it makes its way back and forth through 4 dividers, thickening as more and more water evaporates off as steam. This steam is the best smelling steam that you will ever encounter. When winds bring it down from the vents, we make it a point to stand outside in the steam cloud and just breathe in the indescribably wonderful, sweet aroma. It's one of our favorite parts of making maple syrup.
Hello! How's it going?
While the steam is glorious outside, indoors it can sometimes create very low visibility depending on the atmospheric pressure and wind.
There'll be more in a minute there. We're good. Well, we've got so much done syrup we've been putting in. Yeah.
The combination of the steam and heat from the fire raises the temperature inside the sugar house, often 30 degrees or higher than the temperature outside. Toward the end of the season, on warmer spring days, the temperature inside the sugar house can reach above 100 degrees.
Maple sap has been boiled down over a wood fire on this farm for longer than our family has owned it. Piles of stones found back in our woods indicate sap being boiled down predating 1883, when our ancestors settled our farm. Our current sugar house was built around 1973. It replaced the former sugar house that was built in the early 1900s.
Right in the middle of the entire sugar house, and what's going on there is the evaporator, where we've got a big fire going to boil the water away from the sap and eventually have it be syrup, which we can remove from one of the sides of the tanks. That can be alternated back and forth on different days, and the big firebox has wood put in from the front, has some really hot doors that close after we've put that wood in.
All right, we got syrup in. This one don't have anything in it, huh?
No, I don't think so.
Missing the lid somewhere.
Here you go. Here you go.
We're missing the lid somewhere. We got three of them there. We'll put it in.
The side of the fire that we want the hottest that day, where we'll be taking the syrup off, is where we put the smaller sticks in and get the hottest of fires going. About every 10 or 15 minutes, new sticks have got to be added to this fire. New logs need to be put in there to keep a good hot fire going, and then the smoke and the hot air from that fire will go up against the pans and eventually back and out the chimney.
Now use this end. You want to just kind of shuffle these so that you get them back down on the bottom. Okay. So that you have room on the top to put new sticks. Okay. You don't want to go crazy with it and all that ash down, but you just want to create space. Watch the door too on your. Yeah. And it's gonna just keep getting hotter, so work fast, right?
Your leg a little.
Alright, so just lean that up against here real fast.
What happened to the old
They're over here.
Jeep? Okay.
On this side.
They just take so long to put on. That's why I don't do it anymore.
And then afterwards, that's why I always go outside. On hotter days, you go outside to stand in the creek.
Was it last time we
You
did this?
don't want to scrape the pan, so you try to keep them low.
It's a really sweaty job to put the wood in, but certainly one that we all enjoy as the coals fall down and provide lots of heat throughout the day in the bottom. And those also obviously help with the heating of the sap up top and also allow us to cook down hot dogs and marshmallows and things like that that add to the atmosphere.
Once boiled down, there are multiple tests to make sure that the syrup is the correct temperature and consistency.
Who? Grandma. But good thing Grandma was watching it because we were all over with Grandpa Ken.
I was watching too.
Well, good job, Bree. Good thing you and Grandma were watching at home.
It was way over.
Take the lid off of that one, Luke.
A hydrometer is used to measure the density of the syrup. A more traditional test is the flake test. A flat scoop is dipped into the syrup. When it is ready, it will fall off in one large flake rather than individual drops.
As syrup boils, the boiling pattern changes. A fast high boil indicates syrup is coming soon. Often this boil can flow over the top of one pan and into another, diluting the finishing pan. A simple swipe of a slightly vegetable-greased wooden dowel settles the overflow. Once the bubbles in this boil become the size of an ox's eye, it has reached syrup stage. A sunken, darker popping boil often indicates that syrup is getting too thick. A thermometer that sets just off the bottom of the pan by the draw spout is the final test. Once those other tests are passed, the temperature is read to confirm, and those taking the syrup off know what temperature then to continue to use throughout the remainder of the day to draw from the finishing pan. This temperature varies slightly day to day depending upon many factors, including weather, barometric pressure, consistency of the fire, and temperature inside the sugar house and the density of the sap being boiled down.
As syrup is taken off of the pans, it goes through its final 2 strainings. Immediately after it filters through these strainers, it is canned before it can cool down.
They probably, No, I think they probably just
We're done?
turned it down.
We're done taking it off.
Hey, Mom.
What?
Can you come over here?
We're down to what, 5.5 or something like that?
Yeah. One little line, one full line away, and then one.
This is when all the hard work pays off, and everyone in the sugar house gets to sample the steaming, fresh syrup.
So these are anybody's. Yeah. Syrup? Thank you. Anybody? Syrup?
I think so. Oh, he's going on the other side. I'm gonna cut through again, sorry. Daddy does not have a nail yet, guys. Neither obviously landed. That's great. Wow.
This is unfiltered.
Cans all over again. Oh, I always do that.
Back up here.
They're busy at work too. Okay. They're cleaning. That's not what we need at all.
File fell out.